With profound, humble gratitude and love to all venerated enlightened masters, we bow to the Almighty in soulful gratefulness for gifting us with their holy blessed presence. May all beings be awakened by their divine grace.
Part 1 of 4.
Etc.
Be vegan, make peace, do good deeds, heaven Godspeed.
Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule.
Sugar, love. It's there, the sweetness of life. Wanting that, if you're projecting that you're not getting that love from others around you, needing to give that love to yourself, needing to really know your own worthiness of love.
Please stay with us to enjoy this illuminating Congress.
Milk is what a mammal produces in her body to feed her babies. So what we got here is not just generic pain and suffering. What we have here is a mother robbed of her milk. We have here a mother robbed of her child. Patrice Jones, vegan.
Today's program will be presented in English with subtitles in Arabic, Alasis, also known as Vietnamese, Chinese, English, French, German, Hindi, Hungarian, Indonesian, Korean, Mongolian, Persian, Portuguese, Russian, Spanish, Thai, and Ukrainian or Uranian. Vassals, kind viewers. Vassals is hello in the Latgalian language. I am Petris. The noble Latgalians wish you happiness and blessings from God. May our souls be awakened through enlightenment. In the European country of Latvia reside the Latgalians, an ethnic group living in Latgal, the easternmost region of the nation. Known poetically as the land of blue lakes, Latgal is where the Latgalians have lived since ancient times. It is now Latvia's most preserved area with picturesque natural landscapes of forests, pristine lakes, and geological wonders. The culture of the Latgalian people is distinguished by time-honored traditions that include the crafting of ceramics for practical uses and the art of blown glass. These beautiful objects are created and displayed at the Livani Glass and Craft Center in Latgal. Another artistic tradition is jewelry making. The famed Latvian Namais ring, which symbolizes independence, friendship, and trust, was first discovered in Latgalian lands. Latgalians have long been a multi-religious society with harmonious coexistence of faiths such as Orthodox, Catholic, Lutheran, and Jewish. In the city of Daugavpils, for instance, 4 different houses of worship stand nearby each other, including a historic Old Believer church. Traditional festivities reflect the Latgalians' close association with nature. These include the December winter solstice celebration, referred to in folk songs as the Return of the Light. In December 2010, the first ever Middle East Vegetarian Congress was held at the Dubai International Exhibition Center, with the public invited to engage in an interactive exploration of the plant-based lifestyle. Organized by the Middle East Veg Group, or MEVEG, supported by the Middle East Natural and Organic Product Expo 2010, and endorsed by the Dubai Health Authority of the United Arab Emirates, the event provided 2 days of seminars, workshops, and video telecasts with experts from around the world along with rejuvenating veg cuisine. In addition, Supreme Master Ching Hai Vegan was specially invited to speak via live video link on being a vegan and environmentally sustainable food choice, followed by a question and answer session with attendees and the launch of the Arabic edition of the international best-selling book The Birds in My Life, which was already sold out pre-launch. The Birds in My Life was printed by United Printing and Publishing, a subsidiary of Abu Dhabi Media Company or ADMC, owned by the government of Abu Dhabi. We now invite you to join us for part 31 of the conference titled The First Middle East Vegetarian or MEVEG Congress, held in the city of Dubai in the United Arab Emirates on December 7th, 2010, with Cinta Gonzalez, vegan, a human relations coach whose presentation is called Food, Emotion, and Life Force.
So now, I want to go into the emotional aspect of food and the link there. There are two ways we can approach this. The first is that slogan, put down the food, feel the feelings. I'm going to elaborate on that. And then the second one is, sometimes you may not be able to do that. It's like, it's too nebulous to say, I'm going to put down the food. I don't even know the difference between physical hunger and emotional hunger. So what I'm going to do is present to you some examples of how the different foods that you may be craving or that you're obsessing about or that you have to have can actually be a mirror to you of what you're actually feeling. Okay, so for the first one, just begin to get that difference between the physical hunger and the emotional hunger, which I already spoke about. Now, the big thing we've got to deal with here is about feeling vulnerable. And when we start feeling our emotions, that can be a big taboo subject. I call it really the last frontier of the taboos out there. It's depending on our conditioning, depending on our gender, depending on our parenting, depending on all the different things, if we're even authorized to feel our feelings. And so often that is just not acceptable. So we will convince ourselves that we can use certain food substances or other substances to knock down those feelings. Now, the other thing too is that one thing that helps with that, and this was something that helped me a lot when I was in OA, was to call somebody, or at that time mobiles didn't exist, but to text and to just, when someone close to you, someone you trust, to really process those victories when you get beyond violating that part of yourself and wanting to do it differently. Okay, yeah. Now this part's very rich and has many textures to it. As a counselor, I help people a lot in this. Sometimes you may have a certain obsession with a type of food or a substance, and you're not ready to put it down. You're not ready to feel the feelings. It's too scary. It's too frightening to go into what's there. And sometimes a guide is necessary to accompany you to go into what's really there. So the first one I talk about here, crunchy foods. So crunchy foods are usually to do with anger, boredom, and mulling over something or chewing on a decision or chewing on a problem. I have a nice story on this. All the years of working with this awareness now. Back in, it must have been about in 99, 2000, I was living in Sharjah the first 2 years of living in the UAE. And one day I had to pick up something at Lal's supermarket right at the border of Ajman and Sharjah. And all of a sudden I found myself in the area where they sell potato chips. And I thought, what am I doing here? I came in here for something else. How did I get myself into the potato chips section? What am I doing in this section? And I stood there and it was like, I want to buy potato chips. It was like, you don't really want potato chips, but why are you doing that? And I thought, okay, remember the feeling. Okay, crunchy foods, anger. Are you angry about something? Is there something you're, And I just said, don't buy them. Just go, get what you came here for, sit in the car and just stay with the feeling. And I did. And that was a huge victory for me. It was because it had been years before that I had, really started working with this. And it was, wow. And I was really in amazement of how subconscious, how unconscious that process was. And my shock of finding myself wanting something that really deep down, at that time I wasn't raw, but wouldn't normally want. Okay, the milky foods. Okay, and there I talk about ice cream and yogurt and frappuccinos, which frappuccinos were mentioned yesterday, and anything with milk. And basically, I want to say that all of these, it's not that you should never have these. It's that when you find that you're eating more than you really need, or you're going to them when you're actually not physically hungry, or when your meal is complete. So it's about when you're really going for an emotional seeking here. And so this is really a mother substitute. And it goes back to that very deep, deep cellular memory of when we were small and food was the source of nurturance from our mother, that holding, that presence, that connection. So this is a telltale sign that there's really the need to learn to mother oneself and give yourself that nurturance, or get it from ways that are healthy, rather than overdoing it on something that your body actually doesn't really want. It's your emotional self that wants that. All the carbs, those are filler foods, filling the void. Disconnection. And disconnection can be that feeling of loneliness, even though you're in a room full of people, even though you're in a big family, whatever the case may be. But it's also what we would say a spiritual connection, however we define that spiritual connection to be. But it's that connection with a oneness. So whenever we find we're overdoing it or we're going back, and by the way, I have to say, buffets, just a buffet, that in itself is a great trigger, because it's a buffet. What does a buffet represent? A buffet represents abundance. All that food, all that love, all that goodness waiting for you. And so I know for me, when now with being raw, buffets really don't do anything to me anymore, because just the majority of the food is usually not, it just doesn't call me anymore. But at the time when I was vegetarian and not raw, buffets were a dangerous zone for me. It was a place where I would disconnect from myself and just see it and start projecting all of these things on a buffet. So I learned that. So just want to say that in case any of you can relate to that. Okay, sugar, love. It's there, the sweetness of life, wanting that. And ultimately, whether it's love from outside, if you're projecting that you're not getting that love from others around you, needing to give that love to yourself, needing to really know your own worthiness of love. And I'm sure we've all had moments when we're eating a little too many sweets than we really need. Okay, caffeine, passion, motivation. A lot of people struggle with the caffeine addiction. And, this stuff is not so matter of fact, or just, no big deal. Okay, put down the caffeine, and then find your motivation somewhere else. Sometimes that could mean, okay, that means that I may have to leave my job if I were to let go of the caffeine, because I hate my job. I'm bored at my job. The only way to get through the day at my job is to take in at least 4 or 5 cups of coffee. So this kind of thing is not lighthearted here. Sometimes this demands radical ego death, radical surrender to your truth, even though it's extremely overwhelming in terms of the consequences of what this would mean. So all of these things are signals. And of course, it's working with them and gradually finding your way to come on the other side and listening to, what does my body really want? And if I'm not listening to what my body wants, why am I using that food to completely abuse my body, to run over my body? And why am I not listening to the emotion? And how can I find ways to do that? Okay, chocolate. So I do this formula thing here. And basically chocolate, if you look at chocolate, leave the white chocolate, but milk chocolate or dark chocolate is caffeine with the cocoa, and then either something else. If you find, and all of us, we all have eaten chocolate, I'm sure in this room, I'm sure there's not one person in here that's never eaten chocolate. What do you tend to go to? And where do you tend to eat a bit more, if you've had that experience, more than you really need or really want, or you're hurting yourself with too much of that? The milk chocolate is the milk mixed with the motivation. And so then that can be that more mother connection. If it's just pure dark chocolate, it's just that you just need a real fix with the motivation, the passion. And then white chocolate actually has no real cocoa in it. It's just milk and sweetness, like a lot of sweetness. So all of those kind of callings towards a particular item like that tell us what's really going on inside of us underneath. Now, I talk about fizzy drinks like the sodas, and that's when we're wanting some pizzazz, we want some fun, we want something different. We're in a place where either we're bored or things just aren't happening for us. And meat. So I had to bring in meat here. And again, some of you may be meat eaters, maybe not. And this is a personal journey for everybody. You may be married to somebody that has to have meat 3 times a day. Absolutely. It becomes very belligerent if they don't have their meat. And in all of these things, these are things that I have discovered over the years, whether my own personal journey or working with many, many, many people that are struggling with this or finding this. So this is not a hard, fast science. It's just really based on empirical observation. But my experience with people that are very, very tenaciously attached to meat is where they're in a fear of their own amazingness, their own, what I say, their mystical magnificence. It's that the subtle dimension of ourself, the intuition, and which of course leads to emotion. It's the fear that they would go into those subtle parts. If someone is highly, highly skeptical, scared of that more yin part of themselves, that more feminine side, that more emotional side, the more intuitive side, maybe they're very valid reasons, well, there always would be, valid reasons why they're scared of that. And so the meat is a way to keep them down, keep that energy down, keep you away from that part of yourself. The meat is also it's the densest vibration of anything you could eat. It takes the longest to go through the body of anything else that you could eat. It's a way that when we meditate, when we really do that self-inquiry or listening very deeply within, we are accessing these subtler dimensions of ourselves. There's a woman, she's been a real teacher to me, one of my favorite teachers while I've been learning and continuing on this path of eating only raw food. Her name is Victoria Butenko. She's a Russian woman who immigrated a long time ago to the United States. A lot of people come to raw food for different reasons. Some people come to it for diabetes. Some people come with life-threatening illnesses. Some with obesity. There's many reasons. Mine was actually more of a spiritual quest. I really wanted to just be in that heightened and refined vibration all of the time. That was my quest. I didn't come for health reasons, but many, many, many people that I have met through the raw food way of eating have come from health reasons. Victoria is one of those. She had several illnesses that were very debilitating to her. Now, in her time, she's written several books, and as have shown, her entire family is raw. And she, in her one of her latest books, is called Green for Life. She looks at the difference between the chimpanzee's diet. The chimpanzees, I'm sure most of you are aware of, we are closest genetically to the chimpanzee than any other creature in the animal kingdom. The difference between the chimpanzee's diet and the American standard diet is quite flagrant, as you can see. And for me, of course, being American and having, and definitely, the U.S., their national disease is obesity. There's no doubt about it. We all know it. We've all seen the stereotypes. We've all seen images. For any of you who have traveled to the States, it can be quite shocking when you land and are in certain areas and see what you see. And I see that, with one of the countries that is the highest consumer consumption in the world, the fact that the starches are number one, there's no accident. So there's a lot to elaborate on that one. Okay, I show here the raw food diet versus the American standard diet. I would say my diet is probably quite a bit more greens and less seeds and things, but pretty much that's my diet. So you can see the difference. And of course, which I'm going to move on to next, is the life force. When you look at the difference between that, and you just think about life force, because that's the third quality to my talk here. What are we taking in when we're taking in on the right side?
Be a vegan leader, or you will go to hell bound hands and feet.
Valiant viewers, we appreciate your presence today for the first Middle East Vegetarian or MEVEG Congress on Words of Wisdom. Please join us tomorrow for part 32 of this inspiring conference. Coming up next is Sustainable Innovations to Help Preserve Our World, part 3 of a multi-part series, Greener Fuels for a Greener World. May the heavenly angels help and support us during these turbulent times.
Be vegan, make peace, do good deeds, hell not reach.
Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule and suprememastertv.com/WOW.
Nos programmes offrent plusieurs langues. Veuillez visiter suprememastertv.com/schedule et suprememastertv.com/WOW.
Nuestros programas ofrecen varios idiomas. Visiten suprememastertv.com/schedule y suprememastertv.com/WOW.
Nasze programy oferują wiele języków. Prosimy zobaczyć suprememastertv.com/schedule oraz suprememastertv.com/WOW.